Okay, so welcome to Lab 13 on WebLogic Scripting Tool. This lab's going to be one of the longer labs as we're going to kind of start with how we launch WLST, and you'll learn the difference between running WLST in an offline mode. And then we'll walk through creating a WebLogic domain and configuring that domain using WLST. And while we're doing that, you'll be exposed to the different mbean hierarchies and how to switch back and forth between them. And then at the end of the lab, we'll actually generate a WLST script, which can save you some time for doing certain functions, for developing WLST scripts. Okay, so let's start with creating a WebLogic domain. Go ahead and make sure that there aren't any running WebLogic processes, including Node Manager. We don't want anything running while we're creating a domain. And the only reason for that is I don't want to accidentally incur any additional overhead while creating a domain while WebLogic servers are running in the background. So let's free up all your memory and all your CPU cycles, shut everything down. Go ahead and launch WLST, and this script is located under your Oracle home directory, which will be Oracle / so it's going to be under lab home / Oracle / middleware / Oracle home, Oracle common / common / bin. And then here you'll find the WLST.sh script. If you've been following the lab from start to finish, we've executed this script before many times, so you should be familiar with this script's location. To make my life easier, and I highly recommend that you do this, is I've added this bin directory to my path. So if I do an echo path, you will see somewhere in here, here it is, that I've added that directory to my path. So that way I can just type WLST.sh and not have to worry about it. You can also create an alias for this as well. Whatever you want to do to make your life easier so you don't have to keep using the fully qualified path to reference the script file. You can use an alias or you can specify it in your path. Okay, so that said, I'm going to go back to my lab home and I'm going to run WLST.sh. Okay, so once we get the prompt, the offline prompt, which means we're in offline mode. Now the difference between offline mode and online mode is that in an online mode, I'm connected to a running admin server or a running WebLogic server. Now I can connect to a managed server using WLST directly, but I won't be able to make any changes because if you recall from the lecture, there are read-only or runtime mbean hierarchies, and then there are configuration mbean hierarchies. And the only one I can make a change to or an edit to would be the domain configuration mbean hierarchy. And so we'll touch on that one after we've created the domain and we're going to create a managed server. But for now, let's go ahead and create that domain. So a word on WLST, if I highly recommend checking out the reference links in the lab guide to the online documentation for WLST. It lists all the commands that are available and their syntax and examples. That same documentation is pretty much replicated in the online help. So if you type help, open close paren, you get a listing of all the high-level categories for WLST. Now, you see that first one there, that help all? List all commands available. So if you run that, do help on all, you're going to see all the WebLogic scripting tool commands. Okay. So yeah, it's a lot to go through and it's hard to go through. So if you use the online documentation, it breaks it out by category. And so those categories were, browse, commands for browsing. They got a category for common, which are the most commonly used commands. Control, which is starting up and shutting down the domain on the admin server. And then commands for deployment and so on and so forth. So what we want to do is there's a command called create domain. And that's the command we're going to use to create a domain. So let's do help on that really quick. And so you can see here under description that this command creates a domain using the specified template.